All right, hello and welcome back to our extended disc mini webinar series. Today's webinar is 15 minutes long. We are recording it, so if you missed any of it, or if you need to review it, or even better yet, if you are able to share it with any of your colleagues, we'll be recording it and putting it on our YouTube channel, Extended Disc North America, and we will also be putting it on our extendeddisc.org website. As always, we love your questions and questions, but please put them in the Q&A section. And if we don't have time, I promise you we'll follow up with you after today's session. My name is Christina Bowser, and I'm the training director here at Extended Disc. Joining me today is my colleague, Markku Kauppanen, president of Extended Disc. Hi, Markku.
Hi, Christina. Hello, everybody.
So today's topic is something that I talk a lot about, but it's kind of fun to talk to Markku about. He doesn't do as much of the training, but I always tell Markku I like to pick his brain. I always learn something new. So we're going to focus on the extended disc diamond. What is the extended disc diamond? I mean, that's probably the first simple question we would ask. So let's take a look at the diamond. The diamond is, as we say, as simply put, it's a map. And it's a map of wherever you are graphed on this map helps us to identify your most natural, comfortable style. So we call it, in terms of our report, your profile 2 or natural style. You can see for those of you, we're not going to cover each of the disc styles today. We're going to focus specifically on the diamond itself, but it clearly identifies the D, the I, the S, and the C quadrant. And whichever quadrant that you are graphed in or you are plotted in helps us to identify your most comfortable style. Those facets, or why the diamond is called the diamond, is because I always say it's almost like a solitaire diamond that has been inserted into those 4 quadrants, and you're looking down on top of it. And each of those facets represents a specific disc style within that quadrant. What else would you say for the kind of to intro people to the extended disc diamond, Markku?
Well, I like your analogy of a map, because I think ultimately that what diamond really is. And then probably most importantly, when we think about our own styles and the styles of other people, it is really important to remember that we are not only we are DI style or a SI style. We actually combination of all of these 4 styles, and the diamond allows us to understand how comfortable we are with the different disc behavioral styles. 1 or 2 of them typically is the most comfortable for us. Actually, for most people, 3 of them are quite comfortable for us, and 1 tends to be the one. Like for me, the I style is very low. It requires the most energy. So if you think about what we really ultimately trying to achieve with the extended disc assessment is, how do we modify behavior with different people by having that confident self-awareness, identifying the styles of other people, and then making those conscious decisions about how to modify our behavioral style by how we modify communication, how we influence others, how we deal in leadership or sales or customer service situations with other people. And even how do we deal with different situations that we encounter in our professional and personal lives. It's a map that helps us to navigate how to make those changes. Like any journey, and including behavioral modification journey, we need to understand what is the starting point for that journey. And then this extended disc diamond helps us to visually understand what kind of changes we need to make in our behavior to be more successful and more productive in our, again, professional and personal lives.
Exactly. And for the more of us that are out there that are very technical, like what is the extended disc diamond? Well, it represents the extended disc model, and the model is focused on a person's behavioral style, how they prefer to go about the day, as Markku had mentioned. So we focus specifically on behaviors because we can make adjustments to. And sometimes I actually even talk about it in a session. It's like, if you think of this diamond almost as a dynamic model that we have, like kind of Markku says, a starting point. And you can see here the starting point is your natural style. We call it your profile 2. That's where you most comfortably sit, where it exhibits the behaviors that are most comfortable to you. And in this example, this person is most comfortable in the D quadrant. So D style behaviors such as probably moving at a faster pace, being more task focused. These are behaviors that tend to be more comfortable for a D style individual. The arrow, which in the report is represented by profile 1, we call that your perceived need to adjust. Specifically, profile 1 is the tip of the arrow. And what that represents is, where do you feel you need to make adjustments to your natural style in order to react most effectively to in your present environment. So in this example, you can see this person who is a D, specifically a DI, not something you guys have to memorize or anything, but that pink zone happens to be the DI section of the D quadrant. And the tip of the arrow is pointing into that 100% corner of the D quadrant. So this is someone who is a DI, and for whatever reason, they feel that if they were to focus all their energies on being 100% D at this point in time, they would feel that they would be more successful. Is that correct? Would you say anything to that, Marku?
Yeah, absolutely correct. And the only thing what I've experienced when people see this and they look at the arrow and they think about their present world, it makes a lot of sense. But often, I don't know if Christina, you get this question, what does the long arrow mean? Is it better or worse? Do you ever get that question?
Not always, but I always try to explain it if it ever comes up.
Okay, how do you explain it? Because that's
so if you really think about the arrow and the length of the arrow, it's not about ability. So you know, obviously we are trying to push ourselves or modify our styles to other styles, and some modifications that we make simply take more energy. You know, for this person, if they were to be a D style, 100% D, the arrow's not that long. So the amount of energy and concentration for them to be 100% D is probably not going to be as significant, unlike if they said, hey, I need to be 100% F. I need to focus more on stability. I need to slow it down. I need to kind of make decisions with my team members. Again, it's not about ability. This person can, you know, totally be 100% S, but I bet you at the end of the day, when they go home, they're going to open the door and walk in and go, man, that was a rough day. That was exhausting.
Yeah.
So simply about energy.
Yeah, that's a great way to explain it. And like, if you think about this person, obviously, if you look at the shaded areas, the comfort areas for this person are in the D and I quadrants. Those are the behaviors that for this individual really are not going to take that much energy. But if you think about how do I succeed in my life, a lot of it is about getting out of your comfort zone, not all day long, but in specific situations. So with this person, what I get out of this particular diamond is that when this person needs to be more of a S, like you talked about the long arrow, hey, I can do it. I need to be a little bit more aware of how I behave and how do I actually modify my behavior. And same with those C behaviors. So this, I think a lot of people find the visual presentation of their DISC behavioral style in the diamond very helpful. I always say that the profiles will always provide the most specific and clearly defined representation of what somebody's DISC style is. But when you think about your behavioral modification, the diamond can be a very helpful tool.
Right, and you know, I think one of the things we also don't put as much emphasis on, but it is equally important, is while that shaded area is really, like Marku says, it's kind of like our comfort zone. It's like our bubble. We rest most comfortably when we're in that comfort zone. So I would say, you know, think about really like your home. Who are you most comfortable being? But the area in white is equally important, because again, the goal is, you know, to use our strengths, and that's that kind of shaded area. But also there are times and you know, where we have responsibilities that need us to be pushing ourselves outside of that comfort zone. And those DISC styles that are in the areas of white are DISC styles that tend to take more energy force. But remember, it's not about ability. It's just that we need to sometimes just focus more. So for this person, it might sometimes be as simple as, hey, you know what? I need to slow it down right now. And then you're able to do it. But just by recognizing that you aren't someone who tends to go at a slower pace gives you that information to actually make that adjustment.
Yeah, of course, our assessment provide very specific steps. How do you do this if you are like a this individual? How do I communicate more effectively with somebody in S style? Bullet point, very specific guidance how to do it, and all about the materials, which of course is beyond the topic of this webinar. But yeah, that's a great point, Christina.
Exactly. Thank
Let's
you.
talk about
Go ahead.
teams. Let's talk about teams.
Yes.
My
What
favorite
about
topic.
teams? So, we talked up to this point about an individual, but sometimes we overlook the power of the extended disc diamond and what an effective tool it is to help us understand teams better. Not only their strengths, but it helps us to understand their areas that they may overlook or may need to develop in themselves. And also it helps us to understand team dynamics. So as with all, of our DISC results, it cannot predict the success of your team, but it can help you better understand and support what you know about that team. So Markku, I'm going to throw this back to you. Here's an example that I pulled up of a sample team. How would you describe it, or how would you present it to us?
Well, I mean, first of all, it looks like a very typical team because often we see concentration of style. I would say most typically in two of the quadrants, and of course with this one we clearly see them in the IS quadrants. But if you think about being a manager or a trainer of a team and trying to make some decisions how to develop them, imagine having, probably looks like about 12 members there, 12 individual reports on your conference room table and try to figure out what's happening. But think about this, if you understand this, I know already, you understand already what's happening here. And to me, this is the greatest value of the diamond, because when you are looking at a large number of people, whether it's 12, whether it's 1,200, whether it's 12,000 people, you can plot them there and understand what are the behavioral style dynamics. But going back to your question, Christina, yeah, this is a very typical team. We see a lot of concentrations in the I style and S style. And the reason I see that happen is, I believe, is that people tend to gravitate toward jobs, careers, even organizations that fit their style. We want to be in an environment that feels comfortable to us, and that's our comfort zone, really. So in this team, we have a lot of those I and S style. We have one D, one C style in there. And the arrows begin to also tell a story. What's really happening? How are the team members adjusting? A lot of the team members seem to be actually moving toward the bottom half of the model. The I's and S's, most of them are even becoming more of an I and S. And that's very typical because people like to interact with people who are similar, even with their teams. We get comfort from being around people who are like us. And then we have those D style and C style who are moving up. I don't know why they're moving up, but perhaps they're saying, hey guys, hanging out with people and having a good time is really fun too, but we need to be focusing more on tasks. Last thing I will say is that I typically see a lot of patterns like this. Arrows tend to be moving towards the same direction. And most commonly, the reason or the number one driver of that is their manager. Second that I see is the culture of the organization. I know that's a lot of information there, but I know we only have 15 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, for me as a trainer, if I'm working, let's say, with a team or even with that manager of the team, you don't want to overread it, but what it does is it can help you better understand, or even the team themselves better understand their team dynamics. So if we ourselves see our team as, oh, look, we are, much more on the people oriented half, as a trainer, I might ask, what are you guys focusing on? Where do you see your strengths? What do you bring to the team? And, my expectation is this team is going to be more focused on people, more on emotions, on camaraderie, on communicating. But then, you can push further and you can ask questions like, oh, well, how does, your outliers focus within the team. You know, you have some people that are kind of away from this kind of cluster at the bottom. How are they incorporated into the team dynamics? How do they support the team? So really a great way to look at the team map is that it doesn't answer questions necessarily. What it does is it helps us to create dialogue, to talk about how our team shows up.
That's right.
So
I would say one thing quickly here is that you ask the team, tell me what this means, because you guys live this every day. They tell you the story. They know what's happening. I know that's we're going beyond 15 minutes, but they live this every day. So they tell you what's happening, and then we can create a plan to improve.
Exactly. All right, so hopefully we gave you a very quick introduction and motivation to kind of look at the team diamond of your clients' reports as well as your own reports. It's very easy to generate a team report. There's no additional questionnaire that you need to do. You can just run a team report very easily as long as everyone has taken it. So reach out to us if you're interested in learning more. We do have a couple of webinars coming up next week. We have the SCA development report. It's basically, you know, as a salesperson, how well am I doing? What areas could I develop in myself? And we have that coming up on Tuesday. And then Marku is the expert on this one. We're going to be talking about the site and unlimited use licenses. Tell us a little bit about that, Marku.
Well, people sometimes say, hey, I have to pay X dollars for every assessment. We'll talk about this. What are the ways to get around that? You know, you need to know how much you're going to spend in 2021. Site and unlimited use license will help you do that, solve that issue.
So if you're interested in any of those webinars, even if you can't attend, you can go to extendeddisk.org, click the events tab, click on the webinar, sign up for it, and we'll let you know when it is available for viewing. So thank you guys all for joining us today. info@extendeddisk.org if you'd like to reach out to us. Have a great day. Thanks, Marku.
Thank you, everybody.